All right, lastly, part three of our three-part final projects. Overall, again, I like what I saw. Some notes to potentially apply and tweak, and I think we'll be good to go. All right, let's look at Roberts. I'm going to zoom this in a little bit, and it's probably going to pixelate, but we'll get the idea. All right. So I don't necessarily mind the idea that's going on here. I think it's a little bit busy, and it's very sort of product heavy. Again, kind of think about where this is going, how it's going to be used. Right, it's going to be a mall display poster, so people are going to be walking by it relatively quickly. So it's not quite billboard-ish, but sort of in the same ballpark. So it's a lot. It's very information heavy, right? The other thing that we need to keep in mind is that this is supposed to be targeted specifically towards a male audience. So we don't really know anything about the audience here. And then at first I thought with the headline, The Journey from Plant to Formula, I thought it was going to be, this was sort of more of a hierarchy. I didn't realize it was kind of a product sort of session. And then I would say unless sort of, I should have been a little bit more clear, I guess, but unless sort of specified here, specifics about this kind of stuff, I wouldn't put in yet. This was really just more of a display poster, and informational about a new a product or a featured sort of line of products. So I would kind of take this out. This would be more for like a flyer or like a more sort of traditional ad, I guess. But yeah, so I think what we need to do, not quite start from scratch here, but I like the gradient that you have in the background. I think the logo is going to be a little bit large. Again, so keep in mind that these are going to print, I think, what did I do? Quarter scale, third scale, I forget. But these are effectively will print 2 feet by 3 feet, if we, theoretically. So this is going to be, huge. So I think what we need to do is sort of refocus on those sort of project specific things, right? So it's a skincare line, theoretically, a new skincare line that's appealing towards a male demographic, right? Which is usually, sort of traditionally difficult for this type of product, right? So we need to sort of focus more on the product specifics, or project rather specifics. But I think overall as a design, I think it's a little bit busy. You have a lot of elements going on, a lot of these different squares. They're all different sizes. They're kind of formatted a little bit differently. These are more centered. This is off center. These are 2 instead of 3. So there's just a lot of sort of visual chaos happening. So I think it's, we need to not just refine the focus of the, I want to say theory, but that's not the right word. Focus on on the specifics of the idea where it's supposed to go, and then focus on like the visual, in air quotes, physical information. Again, it's really busy. Even if this was sort of like a product showcase, it's still, visually sort of very busy. You got to think of that visual hierarchy, right? And how people read things and moving the viewer's eye through the piece. So definitely a little bit of a regroup and refocus here, but I think you can pull it off. All right, Nicole. All right, this one. Zoom in just a little bit. Zoom out a little bit because I zoomed in too much. There we go. Yeah, I really like this one. I think your image works really well. I think the product images you have work really well. Your tagline works excellent. Color palette, great. I think some minor tweaks with some resizing and spacing, and I think you'll be good to go. I think for this, if you make this logo a lot smaller, basically so you kind of fit it within this area, but even go a little bit smaller, maybe so it, really just kind of takes up here-ish. Try it giving it a lot of breathing room, right? You have this nice open sky here, and then it kind of, not in a bad way, but kind of gets cluttered with this large logo. I would, go, simple and clean. Try it, smaller than you would think, and see how that, really wide open breathing room, that kind of feel gives it, right? And then you have this really nice action, very, very action filled, busy, in a good way, busy image. And then you have a lot of, good negative space to play with down here. So what I would do is I would make these a little bit smaller, overall. So you can kind of, again, give it a little bit more breathing room. Don't be afraid to space it out. If you want to have these be two different pairs, make these a lot smaller and have, one pair here. And then if you wanted to use a different shot, there's like a round container shot. So you have like, tall, you have this bookend sort of tall, short and squat on this side and make that a little bit smaller. But I would make these products overall a little bit smaller. I don't know about evenly spacing them across the whole thing, but if you wanted to have them like pairs, that would be fine too. But again, give it a little breathing room. Don't, you have a great base here. Don't clutter it, right? And then lastly, I would simplify this a little bit. So like experience a new kind of cool, maybe. Just to sort of simplify it and just make it, just that sort of word economy, as like stand-up comics say. But yeah, experience a new kind of cool. And you could even probably put that on one line, because again, these are going to print rather large, right? So if you had that on one line, right, that'll open up this area a little bit. Maybe make these products a little bit smaller, organize them, give them a little bit of breathing room. Again, make this a lot smaller, give it some breathing room, give it a try. But yeah, I think overall the concept is super strong. I think it's a little bit cluttered, and that's unfortunate because it's a super, super strong concept. So I think just making things a little bit visually smaller and giving them some room to breathe, I think will really, really tighten this one up. All right, Mary's. Again, I think we have a sort of similar thing going on here with a little bit of clutter. I can't really see, I guess I could open your AI, but making sure, I can't see rather your trim, bleed, and safe area, to make sure, I think this is going to the bleed. But if this is going to the bleed, then we have the potential for our products to get cut off. Again, so you want to make sure that you're working with those print margins, right? I think overall, I like your image. I like where the logo sort of is, depending if this is the safe area, I would sort of tuck it more into this upper left space. Give it some room like you have it, but make sure that space is kind of even. So even just nudging this up slightly to like here maybe. Where I think the issue, again, it's really strong image. I think where the issue is this is very, very cluttered. I like the idea of showcasing a lot of products, but that gets problematic because then it starts to get busy and cluttered and sort of smooshed on top of each other, and then it loses visual interest. So what I would do is focus on maybe one or two products, even if you just wanted to focus on like the shampoo and conditioner kind of thing, or focus on, a couple of different shaving things or something like that, right? So you could even have, the only reason I chose these two is so you have these a lot smaller. I don't know where the rest of this image is, but if you had the tops of the bottles like here, give or take, so you had bottle here, logo, and then you could have like a tagline. Don't forget, we need some sort of headline, right? So think of like, what kind of vibes does this photograph give you? What kind of attitude? What kind of, whatever. And try to think of, a headline or a tagline to go in there, right? So I think, again, overall, I think the top half, I think the concept is pretty strong. I think, again, it's just sort of decluttering, reorganizing, and cleaning it up a bit to refine that one. Aidan, all right. And again, I'm looking, oops, I hate it when I do that. I need to look at your Illustrator file to make sure that we're working with those print guidelines, but I think you have a good concept, a good base. I might even, I think, again, a little bit busy, cluttered a little bit. So what I might do is I might get rid of this bamboo. I don't mind the idea of this sort of lumberjacky pioneer guy you have going on. I might even get rid of this. Just use this gradient in the background and where his body ends, basically. I tuck the Origins logo, I would say, on this side maybe, after getting rid of that stuff. Keep the table and all this, maybe not all this, but keep the table there. I think works well, but I think the foliage and plants don't need to be there. So if you had that, I would focus on maybe one or two products here. I like the idea. It looks like in a good way, it looks like a used, cluttered sort of desktop. I like the way that works, but I think for the sake of this piece, I would focus on maybe one or two products. Maybe get rid of the candles, and then again, if you get rid of some of the extra stuff, and and then focus on like one or two, or even if you had like 3 of these tubed products on the table and maybe like a tub or something, just so you give it more a sense of what it actually is, right? And then that sort of frees up space here. And I think to sort of simplify again, I think that is the trickiest part with all of these. So if we had, try to think like real pioneers, or you could have real skincare for real pioneers, something like that. So if you had like real skincare for real pioneers, and then you had, you know, basically this cleaned up image, something to that effect, right? So you could have, you know, even if you kept the Origins logo here, or you could have the Origins logo down here, and then have, you know, real skincare for real pioneers, or real pioneers deserve real skincare, something like that. You know what I mean? So again, it's sort of like simplifying that headline. Again, I think you have a really strong start with that. All right, and what's up? All right. Again, a really good start. I like the concept. What I might do, this guy's already kind of as big as he's going to get. Well, that was a terrible pun. Really unintended, I promise. What I might do is, I was thinking of putting this Origins logo in a different spot, maybe. So what I was thinking was, I like the idea of this. I might make this even a little bit bigger. It's already starting to overlap, so I would push that, you know, to make it look more intentional. You know, maybe ending about here. You don't want to clutter up the bottom of this too much. Yeah, make that a little bit bigger here, and then strengthen your skin against the sun, overpower and overcome. I think, honestly, again, simplifying, I think if you had overpower and overcome, even overpower and overcome the sun, I don't know if that's, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good way to edit. See, it's tricky. But strengthen your skin, overpower and overcome, maybe on 2 different lines, because you have the idea with this, with the visual, the sun, strong dude, obviously using this awesome sunscreen, you know, all that. I think visually you have that message. So I think it's really just sort of simplifying that that headline, tagline, you know. So if you had strengthen your skin, even overlapping, so that gives you a chance to make that a lot bigger, and then overpower and overcome either here or here, so it's actually the text is blocking or overlapping the rays, and then maybe making this a little bit bigger, and then even potentially making that a tiny bit smaller, just so this area isn't so super cluttered. But I think overall, great start. I like the concept, and I like where you're going with it. All right, Mary. This one we need to export with our artboards, but I was trying to zoom in to see. That's as far as I'll let me zoom in. All right, anyway. I like this concept a lot. What I might do is, since we have this sort of visual, I don't think we really need the for men in there. What I might do is get rid of that bottom line, and then have even bold skincare. So you could have like bold skincare for the modern day warrior here. And then I might just have like 1 or 2 products. I'm not really, I don't know. I don't necessarily love the way that like this arched 3 sort of like kind of this floaty, you know what I mean? Product shots work. Even if we had, you know, the Origins logo here and had one of the bottles here and one of the bottles here more vertically, or even if you had the 3 products next to each other left to right, and then the Origins logo here, it's kind of like overlapped the middle. It just kind of clutters it a bit, you know, again, sort of cleaning this up. But again, I would definitely maybe do like bold skin care in this area, and then for the modern day warrior, here. And then again, kind of formatting this middle. Open up this image, basically. Open up the picture, right? You don't want to cover it up too much. You want to sort of show that kind of strength-ish. And then again, remember that these are going to print pretty large. So you could even probably make, if you made care the same size as this, you could probably make that overall a little bit smaller. And then even these three could make a lot smaller overall. Because again, in theory, these are print 2436. So it's a lot of space. But I think overall, a great concept and a good start. And then Olivia. So again, I really like this concept. What I might do is have where you have return to your, maybe have return to your, it might be tricky to overlay that over this. You'll have to find a good color, maybe even this greenish, to use that will read well on all that, but basically have that above this darker color you have here. So return to your, and then have like origins here, and then that sort of just frees up the space. You know, again, sort of a little bit cluttered. Or if you wanted to have this in general be a little bit larger, so your, you know, essentially this last tub like ends give or take about the same size as the logo. So you have your product shots here, and then return to your origins up in this area. Or even if you made that darker area a bit larger. Again, I really like the image. I like where you sort of started with this. I think some minor sort of organization of this to sort of, again, give it a little bit more space, give it a little bit more room to breathe. It's a little bit cluttered, and we have a lot of space, again, because these are going to be printing rather large. Yeah, I think overall everybody did a great job. I like what I saw for our final projects, and I am looking forward to seeing what you guys do for your revisions.